Hey everybody, this is part 3 of a 3-part series. I hope 1 and 2 were informative. Like we said, it's important to remember in these series that we're doing, as of this filming, I don't have answers. I don't even have a cost. We're working with builders. We have some ideas of the cost. Once again, we're thinking of a $9 million total all-in cost, $4.5 million acquisition. Then we're looking around a $4 or $5 million depending build as of right now. But this changes as we try to get more square footage. So we'll do all follow-ups and take you along this journey as we get cost solidified and start construction, which should happen soon. In this video, though, of the 3-part series, this is the final one of the intro to the building. We're looking at structural details. We're looking at make it or break it things. We're looking at cost of lost space, plus ideas on getting more utilization out of space that's currently existing. We take a look at the beast, which is crazy. You'll get to see that. And we're looking at some financing options and information. As we film these, part 1, part 2, and part 3, I'm discussing our ideas. Like I'm walking through this, telling you about our thought process. So when we do the next 3-part series, you're gonna see as we're building what played out and what didn't, and we'll walk you through it. Good, the bad, the ugly. If this is good content, if you're liking it, you appreciate the time and effort we're putting into it, like and subscribe. That tells us, put comments in, questions you have, we'll answer them and even make more videos about it. With that, I'm not gonna talk anymore. Enjoy the video. One of the things you gotta watch out for in conversions, especially multi-story, is the support systems for the second story and the pounds per square foot. Right? So the weight per square foot that the support beams are holding. Storage actually requires a lot. You have to make sure that the building itself is structurally sound, which sounds like a no-brainer, but the average building that is done, like office or other places, does not meet the requirements of the per square foot rate for storage. We were lucky in this building, after we had it studied, that the way it was built, it's structurally sound to allow for that weight capacity per square foot. But that can be a lot of trouble if you don't have the engineering done beforehand, thinking you can put self-storage on the second floor, only to find out that you can't, because making that building structurally sound for self-storage is very expensive when you get to second floors. So those are make it or break it kind of items when looking at projects like this. Okay, so one of the things that we're looking at is access. This is obviously horrible access to a second floor. Access for customers needs to be simple, smooth. We're talking, we need elevators, industrial size elevators to lift equipment up. This building has multi-floors and floors almost within its own floors. So we found that the previous owner utilized heavy machinery to take equipment up from one floor to the other. This is expensive machinery and is not conducive at all for customers and access to the storage facility. So when looking at how we're going to access the units for our second floor and even third floor, we have to have a central point that we can access all different levels. That comes down to over in what will end up being this other side. We'll have one point of access right by the outside doors that individuals can come take loads and take carts out onto the second floor. These are lots of little rooms that are useless square footage to us. So we have, once again, more power in these buildings, and you have tubes and pipes, and there's, again, corrosive material that is not functional for what we're trying to use. The walls are weight bearing, so we can't tear them down. These are the kind of stuff that we just have to shut the door and lose the space. This adds up. It doesn't look like a lot, but this space right here could be $80 a month. And you take that across this entire facility with lots of unutilized space because of a power box that we're never even gonna access. That's space that we paid for, that we can't make revenue producing. So those little things with conversion can really kill your pro forma, and you really got to watch out for them. The way we offset that with this building is, once again, that second and then third floor. We create more usable space in lieu of the space that we're missing, and we get creative about how we're doing it. We're looking for a higher revenue per square foot in utilization. So in a building like this that is in a downtown area that will have high utilization for smaller units, but also specialty storage will include things like wine storage, right? Wine storage on a per square foot basis is very expensive because they have to be independently controlled through humidity and climate. So you can charge the equivalent of a 10 by 10 for basically a small locker or more, and that can house different wine products in them. And then you could sell larger units for more commercial use for wine storage, which once again is a really high per square foot revenue for us. So by adding in different utilization of units into a building where we may lose space, that can really change that P&L. So we spend a lot of time, first of all, figuring out, after we rip all this stuff out, right? After everything goes, after the walls go, what are we left with, okay? We're left with support walls. We're left with certain areas that can't be utilized. We're trying to quantify the usable square footage, which the first round, you're almost always wrong because you're always surprised later on. After that, you're trying to figure out the best use per space to maximize the square footage that we have. We talk a lot about unit mix, specialty type, levels, what goes on what level. It's really not just as simple as throwing up units, because if you get that mix wrong, which we've seen, you can end up with whole entire parts of the facility that are not full. There was indoor climate controlled storage facility in a more of a third tier market than a second tier market. And the access point to that facility was very similar to this. What it was that all of the material that you need stored went in a certain way to access the second floor. But the customers had to use stairs. There was no access. So what ends up happening is the customers going around in circles to try to store their goods. Now, the reason they did that was because of the cost associated with putting it in. Now, there was quite a few storage facilities that did this actually. It made a lot of sense on paper, and it made a lot of sense because they could still access. There didn't seem to be a whole lot of downfalls. Ended up that second floor has very low utilization, almost zero, roughly 20% occupancy when we were looking at that building. People just didn't want the space. Then they start dropping unit pricing to try to fill them up. And at the end of the day, you have a huge section of square footage that is very poor performing. Whereas if you just spend some cost up front that will be packaged into the building, into the loan, which will be being paid off over time, your revenue will go up. It's almost always worth it. So always looking at those things with this building. So the key to conversions is imagination. Looking at this building, it's nothing like it will be when it's done. And understanding how we can utilize it becomes very complicated because of things like this. There's an access point to nothing. Now, although this looks like a danger and downside, this is areas that we're looking to get more square footage at a really low cost. This will be another floor within the facility. All of this will actually be taken out. It'll be seamless. So it'll be completely empty. There will be no walls, nothing else like that. You'll have direct access from an elevator that'll come up. All of this will be gone. You'll just have one huge second floor. But it takes a little imagination to figure out some of these spots and how we're gonna do them, not gonna lie. And it also takes a lot of cost, so your purchase price has to be right on. All right, so we talked about the HVAC systems and we need to figure out which ones are good or bad. This building is actually ran off a system that I'm gonna show you in here. We call it the Beast. It's quite scary. These are examples. Okay, so this room is a prime example though of space that we are gonna lock up and throw away the key and that we don't want to inherit, even though it's a very large space. Okay. Okay, so this is the heating and cooling system that exists. It is very large and very old. As of right now, This is what's heating and cooling the building. So, perfect example of really knowing your cost you're going to incur to maintain the exact same functions of the building. So just because it's an operating building doesn't mean that we're going to utilize the same system. So that cost can be very, very high. Okay, so we're moving on to the next part of the office. We have, once again, more actual office space, no longer industrial. The office space is pretty extensive in this building, but the good thing about the office space is none of these walls tend to be supporting walls, so we can just open it up. After we clear out the office space, make the 2 floors, we're looking at roughly around 1,000 to 1,200 units, depending on how many specialty units we put in, like cubby holes. Our goal with the facility is to be under $9 million all in, and we're hoping to get an average per square foot rate of $1.50. And so we're really hoping that on average this facility will bring in between $1.3 and $2 million a year. Our overhead on operating a storage facility like this is right around 36-37%. So that leaves us with a really good margin, which would put the facility well over 15 million. That's kind of how we're looking at it underwriting. Now, as we're underwriting the building, as we're looking at the units, it's this just absolute balancing act of measuring utilization, demand of the space, and how much it costs to get that utilization out. The bigger the building, this is by far the most complex project we've ever done. The more complex that the structure is and the use was before, how old it was, all those things play into how much yield you're going to be able to get out of the facility. Really anything over 5 million, 5.5 million on this facility, we wouldn't have touched. There's too much risk. As we bought it, we're uncovering all the costs because we still don't know all of them. We have a pretty good idea, but the more complex a building is, there's more room for error. And there's more large items that can go really, really wrong and drive that cost up. So it's really important that we're also in an area that has super high demand, and you're getting really high revenues per square foot associated with that demand to even take on the risk. All right, so a recap of the property. We purchased the property for $4.5 million. We are looking to be all in between 8 and 9 million. That should get us over 100,000 square feet. With that cost and that square footage in this market, we are hoping to achieve right around $2 million in gross revenue. That will have about a 36 expense ratio. So we're hoping afterwards we will create $10 million in equity. So we've put down, or we will have into this facility about $2.5-3 million. And that $9 million includes soft cost, hard costs, everything. That's our target. Really, the idea though is you can't get over 10 million at all. We want to be around 9 million. Our rule of thumb is I need to double the total. Whatever it costs needs to at least double in my development to have that in equity to make it really worth it. At that point, what we do is we refinance the facility, still at the 70-30 range. That's usually where our LTV lies. And we refinance it into a non-recourse loan. What that means is that the debt is not held by us personally anymore. So if something happens with the property, we can give the keys back to the bank. At that point, we'll have all our money out plus profits on it, and we will still have a really good cash flowing asset. Our time frame in which to achieve that on this asset is right about 3 years. So that includes construction, everything else. So from 3 years from this point, as we keep doing this and the video goes on, I'll tell you what goes wrong and how it plays out and what it looks like when we're done. All right, we've now gone through the 3-part series of this conversion we're doing. We're building out currently the models based upon projections that we have with the square footage that is getting in the market, fill-up rates, utilization, cost, as we've described in the video. Our next series, which will be a 3-part series, will be the actual construction phase. So the next series will actually know the cost. So we'll have the cost, I'll have complete layouts done. We can walk through all of it, like why we were putting, where we got extra space, specialized self-storage utilization. We're gonna take a look at the mess ups and that whole entire construction process, which can be painful and a headache. During this process though, we're finding out more. We learn as we move along. That's one of the most important things that I hope you're taking away from these series. We know what our make it or break it's are. We know what our yield is. I know what I need to make on it, but we don't have all the answers. As we build, we uncover. We find opportunity. We also find downside. I hope you see that in the video, and I hope you see our thought process on how to pivot and take advantage of these things. It changes, it will. That's part of it. And then we can apply those to other building projects that we're doing. At the end of the day, the series is meant to be raw. It's meant to give you insight on the process to go through it and understand the things that we do to limit risk, understand our projections, and make sure that it is an extremely profitable investment for us and our partners. Once again, if you found this interesting, if you like it, if it's helping, like and subscribe, everybody. We appreciate it. For more information, you can go see selfstorageincome.com, and we will make the next series on the actual construction. You'll get to see walls that were there that are going to be taken off. I'm really excited and a little nervous. I'm really putting myself out here on that, but it'll be great. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.